This FedGov Today production is sponsored by EY. Welcome to Securing the Depths, a special focus on the challenges the Navy and the Defense Industrial Base face in building the next generation of submarines. I'm your host, Francis Rose. The U.S. Navy says it's on, quote, a once-in-a-generation journey to completely transform its nuclear-powered submarine fleet and maintain its critical undersea advantage. The Navy and its partners are casting a wide net to find the 100,000 people or more it needs to build that transformed fleet. On this program, you'll meet Navy, DoD, and industry leaders who are heavily involved in developing the submarine workforce of tomorrow. First, I welcome Erica Ford, Principal and U.S. Government Public Sector People Advisory Services Leader for EY. Erica, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. What exactly is the challenge that the Navy and the DIB are up against in revitalizing the subfleet?
The recruiting of the workforce, it's such a diverse group. It's a much more diverse group. It was easier. The message could be far simpler, 30, 40 years ago. But now when you look at the workforce and the wide range of people that can serve in those 100,000 jobs that are needed, you need the 25-year-olds, you need the wisdom of the retired veterans that are coming back to support. But then you also want folks that really can go in for the long haul and really see and have grown up in that culture and really can bring and really embrace that culture. So you need all kinds of that variety of people, and the recruiting strategy is tough because it can't be a one-size-fits-all. It really has to be pretty diverse.
How much of the challenge is just raw numbers, that they need 100,000 bodies or more, and how much of it is the skill sets that are involved in doing something so specialized and so really unique? Nobody really builds submarines except the Defense Industrial Base for the Navy.
I think it's a mix. I mean, the sheer volume of the number, 100,000 people, that's a lot of people to fit in a room, right? So that's a ton of folks. But when you think about how you can build a pipeline of that talent, it can't be just hosting a job fair. It doesn't work that way. To get those 100,000 people through the door, you have to build a relationship with them early and where they're at. So that means, building relationships with school systems and really talking about the wide variety of careers that people can have. And even when folks are when kids are in elementary school, starting to talk to them about submarines and ships and all those kinds of things, so that their point of view about a career is wider. But it also includes how you partner with trade schools, for example. There's a numerous amount of trade schools everywhere, and they're doing everything from welding, teaching people about, people who want to be electricians and that kind of thing. But the thing is that there's a lot of routes those students can go. So if they don't know about the complexity and all that the Navy has to offer, and how cool is it to work on a submarine, right? But if they don't know those stories, they won't know that that's even a possibility. So those relationships with every stakeholder at those trade schools, the teachers, the folks that are running the schools, the families of the students that are there, that's part of it.
You've used a word a couple of times that I think is important, and that is career. These are not just 100,000 jobs that the Navy is offering. This is a long-term commitment that the Navy and the Congress, through the money that they're authorizing and appropriating, are making to revitalize this fleet. So these are jobs that are not just going to go away at some future point. They're going to be around for a while. And it strikes me that that career emphasis is probably an important factor in the way that you promote them. I'm
so glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times when you think about the workforce, a lot of folks will go to welding and electricians, and that's such an important, it's so important, the work that they do. There's sonar technicians that are also needed. There's naval architects that are actually building out the submarines. There's quality assurance jobs that are involved. And one of the things that's really cool about working in this work is that the importance of the cross-training. So you can be a welder who is also getting the opportunity to cross-train in quality assurance and that kind of thing. And so whether someone wants to grow into being a project leader and within the welding group, or if someone wants to learn other skills that they can go into other parts of the industrial complex, absolutely. It's like the world's their oyster. And so one thing, I really like to focus on with people is just the wide variety and how you, in your purpose, the things that really motivate you and excite you and the passion that you can find, you can all find it supporting the submarine industrial complex for sure.
Well, we'll talk about this more in the second part of this program, and we just have a minute or so left in this part of our conversation, but that was something that struck me, is the breadth of skills that are needed. These are not just very simple jobs for folks. There's a lot of sophisticated, really highly advanced work that needs to be done.
I would argue all of them are highly sophisticated. Some of them, the way that you have to work them, you're in confined spaces. There's a lot of, there's the technical skills that you have to learn are incredible. So every single one of these jobs has a complexity that the submarine industrial complex cannot do without.
All right, you stay here. We're going to continue the conversation in a moment. We'll take a quick break, and then you'll meet leaders from the DoD and the Navy Department when Securing the Depths continues in a moment.
Protecting our nation takes courage to lead, commitment to the people around you, and confidence to make difficult decisions so you can complete your mission, no matter the barriers. EY is with you every step of the way, supporting your mission lifecycle. We support these missions with the full force of our organization. EY teams include senior military advisors, data scientists, strategists, and veterans. And our shared values keep us connected. We lead with integrity and respect. We team with energy and enthusiasm. We do the right thing. We do this because we believe a more secure world is a better world.
Welcome back to Securing the Depths. As Erica Ford described in the first part of this program, the Navy, the broader Defense Department, and the Defense Industrial Base are all stakeholders in the drive to create a new generation of submarines and a new and bigger workforce to build them. Here to discuss how that effort's going, where it's come from, and where it's headed are Adele Ratcliffe, Director of the Defense Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Program at the Department of Defense, and Matthew Sermon, Executive Director of Program Executive Office Strategic Submarines for the Navy. Erica Ford of EY is with me again. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining me. Adele, I start with you. What's your sense of where you are today as far as building this next generation of submarines and the workforce that you need to put them together?
Yeah, thanks a lot for being here today. I think we're cautiously optimistic. When we started this conversation several years ago, there wasn't a lot of awareness about the strategic nature of a skilled workforce and what was happening within the lack of our growth in the trades, especially as we're surging on systems like the submarine community. As manufacturing moved offshore, manufacturing is a community-based event. And so with manufacturing moving offshore over decades, we're now trying to recreate the relationship between our communities and manufacturing, promote the prestige of manufacturing in the trades. I think we've made a lot of progress on that, but a lot of work to be done.
When you talk about communities, it sounds like you're not just trying to hire humans, individuals, you're trying to hire groups of people, families, not all the families as employees, but almost the same way that you bring somebody into the military, families served in the military. Sounds like that's the idea that you're going for in the workforce too.
Yeah, it very much is a Hearts and Minds campaign. We have to re-win our parents down in the high school systems, our counselors, our community college systems. We need to re-win them on the Hearts and Minds campaign. They're on the role that they play in helping to meet the need today.
Matt, welcome. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming on today. What's your sense of where you are as far as building this new generation of subs and the people that you need to put them together?
First, thanks for having me. Really appreciate your attention on this crucial national security and economic topic. As you mentioned, submarines are crucial to our national security strategy. The undersea warfare capacity that they bring is critical. Today we're headed towards doubling of our submarine construction capacity over the next several years. We need to give our sailors, the best sailors in the world, the undersea warfare tools to secure our way of life. As you mentioned at the top, 100,000 jobs over the next few years across a broad spectrum of competency areas. And as Erica mentioned, it's not like a job fair, right? You don't throw a job fair and you fill the big room with 100,000 folks. We've got a litany of things that we have to do to get there, to attract, which we haven't done in this way in the national security sector for a long time, right? Peace dividend, defense drawdown, globalization of manufacturing, a go-to-college culture across much and nearly all of the nation, and every one of those things has to be addressed. We have to win a larger market share of kids coming out of traditional high schools, community colleges, areas like that. We have to upskill and retain our current workforce, build supervisors that are world-class, and we have to drive into what we've taken to calling opportunity workforce, right? So those are transitioning veterans, traditionally underserved demographics, more women in the manufacturing, industrial base, and engineering workforce, and we have to do it now. And in order to do that, it's a whole of government, whole of industry, across federal agencies kind of effort, and we are making progress. As Adele mentioned, over the past several years, we've seen the attention, we've seen the capacity building, lots of attraction activities going on, from commercials to print, and just a lot of engagement out there. We're looking forward to continuing to press it home.
What have you seen that has been really helpful at driving the awareness that Adele talked about, that these jobs are available, that they're careers, and that they also serve the national security interests of the nation?
So we've worked together with nonprofit industry partners to actually, no kidding, market these national security jobs that stand at the cross section of career opportunity and service to our nation, right? Family sustaining jobs. If you've seen, or if the audience has seen buildsubmarines.com, we work together on that to not only talk about the importance of submarines and that crucial nature and the excitement of working on submarines and seeing something built and being a part of it, but also here's a map of the United States and jobs in every state across our 15,000 suppliers, and jobs across ranging from welding to ship fitting to engineering, electricians, all of those kind of things. Here's where they are. Here's training opportunities, and increasing awareness of that. Doing it through traditional advertising, through a partnership with NASCAR, partnership with Major League Baseball. Things that even 5 years ago, as a career shipbuilder, I wouldn't have dreamed that was where my attention and focus would be. But it turns out that's the necessity.
Erica, we talked in the first part of our conversation about this being a quantity versus quality, job skills versus the number of bodies. That community idea that I talked with Adele about just a moment ago, that strikes me as a very compelling, very powerful argument. Is that one that you're seeing resonate where you have seen it used?
Absolutely. Being able to partner with others and have examples in your community of someone taking one of these jobs, and you get to see so much, because where these submarines are being built on the coast and that kind of thing, the opportunity to go into different geographic areas, the quality of life that you might be able to have, where you're doing something very international, and you're doing something very international in Norfolk, Virginia, is pretty incredible. The other thing that I thought was pretty interesting about what you said, it made me think about the binary thinking. I think in the past it was like you're either all in or you're not. Mm-hmm. And with the workforce that we have moving forward, the recruiting can't be about that binary thinking. It could, there are for welders right now, I think the average time of a welder is 3 years. That doesn't have to be an unsuccessful path for that particular welder. But at the same time, what's next for that welder? Is the next thing to actually leave the submarine industrial complex, or is it something else that they could do across it, right? And so rethinking that piece. And then the piece that you mentioned around, the go to school culture, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be you start with this, and through the benefits that you get by serving in these capacities, school is also part of your journey. A different kind of school, if a traditional 4-year college could be part of your journey while you're learning these incredible technical skills. Like, I would hire someone in a minute who had the kind of skills that you would learn in a submarine, working on a submarine, and then had a job where they were doing IT work. I'd hire them in a second with that kind of experience.
Something that you both touched on, Adele and Matt, that I think when I came into this and started to learn about it surprised me. I think you said there are jobs in all 50 states. Has that been part of the campaign to get people to understand that the submarines are not only built in the shipyards that are located around the borders, the edges of the United States? Is that something that has been a conscious part of the campaign, Adele?
Yeah, the supply chain is everywhere. There's opportunities everywhere. But we also have to just introduce people to manufacturing. One of the things that we talked about is how do we win the hearts and minds of people into this space. Well, one of the things that we're doing is partnering on manufacturing competitions in the local communities where we have equities, right? So we've introduced Project MFG, which is a welding competition targeted at the Navy communities to help make it fun, promote the prestige of welding for the Navy in this case, expose them to what world-class standards look like on welding competitions, and then expose them to the community in that process of the Navy Submarine Industrial Base. We have teaming arrangements on Project MFG that is more on the machining side of the house, so we're doing that. And this is helping to create excitement in our communities, and it's also being used as a benchmark for those schools and communities to know what they need to do to modernize their school systems. And we're seeing now communities reinvest in their school systems in the training program so that they're leveling up in their training programs, which is what we need for a more educated and skilled community.
Yeah, that's actually where I wanted to go next, is what have you seen as far as these communities that you talked about wanting to reach out to, as far as how they're responding to understanding exactly what the needs of the Navy and the DoD more broadly are?
I think we're seeing positive responses out of the communities where we have had persistent engagement with them. We can look at the outcome on many of these competitions that we hold and show where communities are reinvesting in the equipment. And also, as we talked about what we need with the parents and the counselors, our school systems and our training programs and our instructors also need to be constantly refreshed on where we're headed as an industrial base on advanced manufacturing and state-of-the-art techniques, right? So through these competitions, they're getting exposure. They're constantly refreshing, and it is amazing to watch. I want to go back to the individual too. This is changing the lives of individuals. And I think if we can hit on how manufacturing can help you as an individual, that we have a better chance at recruiting them into manufacturing, and in this case, into the SIB. And we are seeing that as well. We spend a lot of time targeting the individual and helping them see themselves in this space.
Matt, you were nodding pretty enthusiastically as she was talking about that engagement in the community.
I was thinking of a poignant example that we worked together, and really Adele was the first investor, I'll call it, an idea we had in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, which not something necessarily linked to submarines, but there's more than 50 suppliers in the immediate Philadelphia region that do important metal forming, electrical, electronic work on submarines. And back in 2021, late 2021, we started a pilot program where engaging with the schools, engaging with the suppliers, both K through 12 schools as well as community colleges, and tying them together, talking to them both about talent acquisition and retention best practices, about what a world-class first day looks like for an employee, what great interviews and knowledge building and understanding what the work they're going to be doing, what belonging cues look like, how to focus employees on purpose of what they're doing, all of those kinds of things. You built this talent pipeline where employers, the schools, as well as a group of facilitators from the community work together over a school year and it's essentially matchmaking, right? And that has turned, after a very successful pilot year, it just finished its third year, 600 people in the Philadelphia region landed in the defense industrial base, not just submarines, right? We're inclusive because we want to raise manufacturing. Raising manufacturing, the Navy term we use is a rising tide will float all boats.
Yes.
Right? That has now expanded to 5 other regions, Boston, Hampton Roads,
Yes.
to Pittsburgh region, as well as to Long Island, where we also have a collection of critical Navy nuclear platform suppliers. And in the 23-24 school year, 2,700 folks landed in the Submarine Defense Industrial Base from those 5 talent pipelines and those community partnerships that we're building.
What's striking to me, Erica, about what Matt just laid out when he's talking about the elements of that program is it's not just the hard skills, welding and electrical and all those kinds of things. He's talking a lot about the things that are involved in being a good employee. Those skills will be valuable to the Navy and to the companies that work with the Navy, but they'll also be valuable to the people that are going, to the employees that are going through those programs, whether they stay in a career in the submarine industry or whether they transition to something else.
And that goes back to the quality of life piece. It's multi-pronged. So if you have someone who is graduating from high school, 18, 19 years old, they're starting out in this field, there's things they're going to be able to do in terms of like being able to live on their own, maybe have an apartment and just kind of get economically going. But that's only part of the story, right? The other part of the story is that they are going to, their mindset about what is possible is going to get bigger as a result. So if you think about one of those students who's participated in one of those competitions, you know, who knew that you could do a competition where it's welding and innovation, those two things coming together. So that idea of like what is available in life becomes bigger and bigger. And then the other piece of it too, when you think about the quality of life piece, is the exposure that people are going to get to new ways of thinking, new ways of living, and it all kind of comes together. So it's not just that, hey, you'll be financially independent maybe, and, you know, be able to live on your own and have a nice car. That is part of the story, but you got to tell that quality of life story in a much more comprehensive, more human way.
Matt, I want to go back to that program real quick. How do you measure success in that? Is it just how many people move from that program into the industrial base, or is there more to it than that?
It's more than that, right? In fact, our number one measure of success is the number of small and medium companies that are involved in the program and how that grows from 29 in the first year to more than 65 in the third year, as well as retention. Right, so we do, part of the companies coming into the program is we measure retention through that first year. That first year of someone coming into a new career is crucial, right? That they understand that there's a plan for them, that they have the quality of life there, that they understand what their future looks like and what their future can look like. And so we've been able to measure that first year retention. We've seen it improve as the program has become more mature. And, you know, Philadelphia and that demonstration of that community with all in school, you know, all the levels of the school system, the local government, the state government, congressional representatives, everyone participating in this program. I'm still not much of an Eagles fan, but Philadelphia has really set the bar.
I think there's hope for you yet then if you have not converted to an Eagles fan spending that much time up there. Adele, that conversation, that broader conversation, that participation takes me back to what you talked about earlier in our conversation about community, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I was going to build off Erica's comment about, you know, we started with the community college because that's where most of the people that we're recruiting into our workforce, they are right now. But at the peak of employment, these folks are in 4th through 8th grade. And so we found ourselves starting to move further left into that educational system. It's really important that we focus on the community college, create those intentional relationships between those candidates and our industry partners, but we've got to get left of that moment. And we are doing that now. We're moving into that middle school focus. We've done a lot of partnerships with Matt and his team up in Southeast New England on the boat program, reaching into younger communities. And we're also doing things, exploring other things that expose young kids to manufacturing in that middle school area. We've got a program down in Alabama, as an example, with Bird. These kids are organized into teams. They have to do business case analysis. It's an injection molding technique. Then they make a decoy and they get to take it home with them. And And that has shown great promise for how kids get excited and continue their education and want to open up their opportunity space to manufacturing.
The part of this that seems the most daunting to me, though, is the number. 100,000 people is a lot of people. What you're doing sounds like the great first, second, third steps. What are the big steps that you think that you need to take? Either one of you can take this to get to where you need to be to get that real mass of people coming into this space. You want to go, Matt?
It's a combination of the things we've talked about, right? It's that consistent attraction, right? That people are thinking about the fact that from grandmother to the K through 12 student, they're thinking about the fact that we have to build submarines in this nation for our national security, and they understand that these are great career-enhancing jobs that can take you through various life experiences, and you can be a welder and turn into an engineer, and we could talk about several examples of those over the past few years that ring out. But also, we have to focus on the region. We do have a set of best practices, right, but every region's different. The demographics are different. The transportation infrastructure is different. Available childcare is different. And to truly scale, we have to assess the critical regions, see where the demographic opportunities are, see where how those match up with transportation and childcare and access to training, and where our actual maritime industrial base centers of gravity is. And so it's multivariable calculus, and the very successful pilots that we've started to scale are not enough, and so we've got a long way to go, and that constant focus across attraction, capacity, and then I don't want to I'm not overselling it, right? Retention, how we keep folks in their jobs by training great supervisors, by setting standards for great supervisors, by talent acquisition and retention best practices that lots of great employers know about. How do we drive that home to a broad industrial base as a culture?
Erica, we have about a minute left.
Yeah, I'm glad you hit on the talent and recruitment process, because the folks need to be able to get in and have that smooth process. You don't want to chase them away because they get stuck as they're having their interviews and that kind of thing. So a lot of what we're seeing in government, or people or organizations, are investing in their talent programs, and one of the benefits is that downstream you can have an improved onboarding process and hiring process that means the world when you're first getting started.
It's great to have you on the program. Matt, Adele, thanks for joining me. Erica, you as well. I appreciate all of you being here today. Thank you for joining me for Securing the Depths, sponsored by EY. If you missed any part of this program, you can watch the show in its entirety on our website at fedgovtoday.com. Thanks very much for watching. Good night. If you want insights from agency and industry leaders on the latest topics in technology, management, workforce, defense, and acquisition, sign up for the FedGov Today podcast with me, Francis Rose. I release new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, so you'll stay up to date on the issues that matter most to federal government leaders. Listen at fedgovtoday.com and everywhere you get your shows. Don't miss out on the conversation. Follow the podcast today.